so much. Thank you for doing this, my friend. This means a lot. And I want you to kind of introduce yourself, show people who you are, what you're about, and your expertise in this field.
Yeah, absolutely, Christian. Thanks for having me, bro. My name is Joey Hewitt. I am a mental coach, a mental performance coach, mental skills coach. I go by all three. But really, I just love helping people. I love helping people within the mental side of sports, focused on basketball
Absolutely.
because, I played basketball all growing up, played in college and played overseas a little bit. But really just, I like to help people, man. I like to help people kind of tap into, their unlimited potential mindset and get it to the most confident version of themselves that they can be. That's my.
Absolutely. That's amazing. Um, when did you start this journey? What kind of led you to this path?
Yeah, man. I started this journey as, as someone who had a lot of confidence issues, as someone who had a lot of
Mhm.
anxiety, as someone who really struggled. I think that's really what tapped me into this world is I grew up very small. I was always the shortest kid on my teams. I was a very late bloomer. So when I was growing up, I had a lot of performance anxiety. I would get nervous before every
Absolutely.
I would think about all the things that could go wrong, and I constantly just put myself at a lower standard than everyone else because I was too small, or I wasn't as big as them, I wasn't as strong as them, I wasn't as fast as them. So
Right, right.
my journey really started in a lot of struggle, which I think I'm sure you can relate to, and the whole reason
Absolutely.
athletes get into the mental game is not because it's going well; it's usually because something's up. So it really
Absolutely.
from my childhood just struggling through my childhood.
Wow. That's powerful. And I appreciate the vulnerability. I mean, so many of us struggle because it's such an unseen battle. And I'm so proud of you for being able to use that to turn into something positive for you to help others. Now, based on your expertise and your experience, what would you say is the best way for a person to get in the zone or to find and master the flow state to be able to navigate their anxiety and turn it into something positive and put fuel to the fire, so to say?
Yeah, I think it's such a complex thing. The zone or flow state is
Mhm.
something that cannot be accessed through the conscious brain. So
Mm,
something you can really tell yourself to get into. Um,
right,
Something that naturally happens, and every athlete who's been in it understands that it just kind of happened. Whether it was from
right,
getting a lot of
right.
results or whether it was just from feeling like not you weren't thinking at all. But I think
Absolutely.
that I think really help you get into it are the breath. The breath is the pathway into the present moment, and being able to
Yes,
breath
yes,
is so important. And whenever you're
yes.
playing sport as a way to kind of reset, clear your mind, and if you're taking a deep breath and you're focused on that breath, you're not thinking in that moment. So if you can do that more often, you're going to tap into really what flow state is, which is not thinking. That's
That's so powerful.
I'm curious about your experience with that, though, like the breath. Would you agree with that?
Oh, 1000%. Like for myself, I was someone who struggled a lot with anxiety. And for me, it's stemmed from past trauma or losing my identity. Because when you grow up playing a sport, you put your all and your love into it. And sometimes you forget who you are because you base yourself based on performance or how many points you can score or how people perceive you or your social status. Or we live in a society now where people judge you based on how many followers you have or, you know what I mean? So for me, when I started to study the art of meditation, mindfulness meditation, I started to understand, wow, like we are not our thoughts. Our thoughts can be distorted from the external world. You get what I mean? And it was powerful once I understood that I have the power to create change within myself. And it's crazy that you mentioned breath work because a lot of times people don't understand that the only way to be the goal is to go through. Like I've heard George Martin, the sports psychologist, he says, "No struggle, no swag." You have to be able to endure and conquer in order to see the other side of what it is that you desire. You know what I mean?
It's so
And
true. So
uh,
true. Go ahead.
I wanted to ask you when you were playing sports, right? You dealt with anxiety, we deal with these different things with identity, and especially for you working with different clients, what would you say is the main thing that most athletes struggle with? Is it not only anxiety? What is it? Identity? Is it social comparison? Is it what do you think causes the mental clutter?
Yeah. I think, I think anxiety or lack of confidence is like the common basic answer, but I believe the root of it is actually stems from a focus. stems from an over fixation on results because when you focus on
Mm.
that creates that anxiety, you know,
Absolutely.
comparison piece is, another result. Like
Absolutely.
what other people are doing, focusing on how many points this other person had. All of that stuff is stemmed from a number or a stat or,
Mm.
and I think
Absolutely.
is by far, I mean, I see it. I train a lot of kids of all ages, and I see that as the most common thing that holds people back is they're so fixed
Wow.
on whether they make or miss shots or
Wow.
they don't make a mistake. And then the anxiety kind of created from that. And then it gets to
Wow.
where you're just kind of anxious and you don't even know why because it's just how it is. Like sports, you're supposed to make shots, you're supposed to get results. So it all
Absolutely.
from that, in my opinion, man. And I struggle with that too, to be honest.
Absolutely. And it's crazy that you say this because I've been studying the law of detachment. Because sometimes in life, when we have these goals, we want to accomplish so many great things, but we forget that the prize is the process and it's the journey. That's the true reward. It's the internal trace that we build on our journey of elevation, right? And then there's another thing that comes to mind, overanalysis paralysis. You can think your way into a negative result, or you can create misery within your mind. And like Seneca says, we suffer more in imagination than we do reality. I thought that that was powerful. Like we're extremely blessed to have all these resources. We're so talented. Sometimes we have to allow ourselves to be, just to
Mhm.
be present, to be still, and that's what creates chaos here. Is that we struggle being present in the moment, focusing on what's right in front of us, being on our feet. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man. I think to be honest, I can connect that back to the flow state, the zone stuff. Like that is the other thing. That's the second piece of it that helps you get into the zone or helps you get into flow state is you have to be fully detached from results. And I love how you said
Yes,
still, like being
yes,
if you miss a shot or if you make a mistake in your game, you can just not react to that. You're more likely to get into flow state. You're more likely to get into the zone throughout the course of that game. So yeah,
yes, yes.
important.
Yes, I love that. I have a question for you here. It's going to be on the kind of the spiritual side of basketball because I study guys like Phil Jackson, 11 Rings, and his approach to teaching athletes how to release their ego. I believe definitely the ego creates freedom, right? So, what role does faith or peace play in the psychology of peak performance? Would you say?
Oh man, I mean, this is like really for me such an important topic. To me, like sports psychology and
Hmm.
mental side of sports, it all the overarching force there to me is faith.
Absolutely,
It all is under the umbrella of my faith in God. Um,
absolutely.
that's something that I actually got to late. And people, you can use really any source of faith for this, but for me, it's through Jesus and through Christianity. But
Absolutely.
I really started to find my faith through basketball, actually, because I was so focused on results. God was the counter to that. God was how I was able to stop focusing on results. So to me, it
Yeah,
saved my whole basketball career. I mean, I was down,
absolutely.
especially in Mexico, and I was really homesick. I had been playing like really poorly, not having good games. And eventually, it got to the point where, after every game, we would pray in the middle of the court.
Wow.
Got to the point
Wow.
where,
It's
I just
powerful.
another terrible game. I really was struggling to start that season, and I was just sitting in that prayer circle, and I just could feel God's presence and just kind of letting me know like it's not about results. It's okay. You don't have to beat
Wow.
up over a bad.
Yes.
And I
Yes.
around and I'm like, man, I'm in a different country. I'm getting to do what I love. I'm traveling the world. Like this is the coolest thing ever. And once I started
Yes.
to do that and really just, tap into that and stay locked in on just God and my faith and focusing on that and the gratitude for that rather than the results, everything,
Yes.
man, I played the best
Yes.
of my life. So to me, it's really like the anchor. It is the rock. It is the thing that helps me stay detached from results.
Yes. That's so powerful. And finding joy in what we do because God gave us the resource to be able to play basketball, to be healthy, to be alive, to be able to function properly. We have all our cognitive functions, our bodies work. We're in a really good place. And in comparison to some people in this world who aren't, who wish that they could play, sometimes we can take it for granted. And that's what creates our minds to be distracted, so to say. Because sometimes we make things in this life an idol. And basketball has been one of those things. If you look at the media, the way that it's portrayed in marketing, it's really a sport that unifies the world. It's a beautiful sport. And we have to get back to that. It's a spiritual sport that is used that God gave us to be able to glorify Him and be able to spread love to the world. So I think that's really powerful that you said that
Yeah,
because
man.
that's from my personal experience growing up. I actually had a therapist. This gets really deep. I had a therapist tell me, like, Christian, you love basketball so much because it comes from a deeper place from trauma because you're good at it. And when you receive attention from other people, let's say friends or people who love your game, it makes you attached to it. But you have to first love yourself and look within. And I thought that was extremely powerful.
That is
Um,
deep. I love that. That's awesome.
Absolutely. I want to ask you, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I think that just shows you why I feel like it's so important is you
Exactly.
you can go through so much of your own struggles in life through basketball
Yes.
until you use faith or until you use a source of something bigger than yourself to help you get out of it.
Yes.
You're going to struggle the whole time.
Yes. 1000%. So I want to talk about identity and self-worth here. Can you still hear me again?
Say that again.
Can you still hear me?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay.
Yep.
So I wanted to ask you about what are signs that you've experienced through your expertise of when a person is struggling, when an athlete is struggling with their identity, and what do you believe is the way to overcome that?
I think a big indicator is if you play a bad game, how does it
Mhm.
affect the rest of your day or the rest of your night? And
Yes.
that's coming from personal experience as someone,
Yes.
lock myself in my room and like as a freshman
Right.
in school, when I would play a bad game, like it meant everything to me. I think that's probably one of the biggest indicators. And if you're so, and it goes back to results, man, because usually when we are thinking like that, we're
Mhm.
attaching our identity to the results of our performance. It's not like
Yes.
you're attaching your identity to the fact that like you didn't talk on defense or you weren't playing.
Right.
Usually the times where the identity gets in the way is when we're so locked in on the things that we can't even control. It's like, man, I
One
couldn't
thousand percent. 1000%.
made I
And to that point,
go
I
ahead.
realized from personal experience myself, sometimes you can be so in your head and the thoughts are just going, 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 going. It not only does it distract from the present moment, it doesn't allow you to play at your highest performance, right? But then afterwards you have all this guilt and doubt and regret of like, oh, I didn't play to my best ability and oh, I could have done this better. And then it creates a self-sabotaging cycle. You're constantly speaking negatively about yourself. You're putting yourself down, and it's like, whoa, 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 time out.
Right.
Those are just imaginary evils. You get what I mean? So I think that
100.
is powerful that you said that.
And one more thing on that is that to me that just is so connected to everything we've been talking about because
Yeah.
you do that, you don't learn any lessons. You
Mm.
emotions, and those emotions get in the way of the lessons every single time. If you're self-sabotaging
Yes.
after a game, you might not even think about what you could have done better to, get out of that rut. You're just so busy thinking about how you should have done this, should have done, how annoying it is, and how you don't want to go to school tomorrow, or whatever it may be. But I just think it's so connected, man, because when you live like that, you never get to a growth mindset. You are so locked into a
Absolutely.
mindset. It's all about the
Oh
results.
my
That's
goodness.
a lot
Yes.
that goes into that, the fixed mindset and the growth mindset. I think that stems and it's very related to identity because
Absolutely.
if it's in a fixed mindset, then you're going to be sad a lot of the time after games. But if you have a growth mindset, you'll find the lessons and you will get better at an expedited rate.
Lessons and the blessings.
Facts.
Now, I want to ask you two questions. How does one reprogram their mind for the success that they want? And what role does visualization play, not only in the sport of basketball, but in life and spirituality?
Yeah, I think those two questions can be connected. I think visualization is one of the most powerful tools to rewire or reframe your mind.
Yes.
I think of that as, something that can really help you get mental reps in something that hasn't happened yet. So a lot of times if you have fear and nervousness before a game, being able to visualize yourself playing with excitement and playing with joy
Yes.
and kind of
Yes.
frame what those feelings mean and rewire your brain to see those feelings as positive. Visualization
Absolutely.
big. And then the other part of that can help rewire your brain is self-talk. Like, what are you saying to yourself when you have these feelings? Because so often, and we don't even realize this, but we have phrases connected to feelings where, or thoughts
Mhm.
that are connected to feelings. So if you feel nervous, you'll think, oh, shoot, or you'll think, uh-oh, I'm gonna mess up today, or you'll start to visualize
Yes, yes,
negative.
yes.
So
And you're putting that out into the world when you think this, when you think that in your mind, that's powerful.
you're
And
right.
really, it's about reframing that too. Like, oh, wait, I'm not nervous. I'm just excited. Like, I get to play the game that I love. Like, I want to play well. You know what I mean? It's not like, oh, I'm not capable. It's no, I'm excited. This is a blessing from God.
Right. And the second part of your question, I'd say, to me, it's very connected. There's definitely a spiritual element to visualization, and I'm glad you
Yes.
said that because it's the part of visualization that I think a lot of people mark on, which is really the idea of feel. Like visualization has it has visual in it, so we think it's something we have to see, and it is something you have to see. But just as important is attaching the other senses to the visualization as well, and
Yeah.
feel at the top of that list for me. So that's connected to spirituality in the sense of faith or God is not something we can see all the time, but we can feel
Mm,
the Holy Spirit in ourselves. We can feel the presence of faith or the presence of trust when we have it. And so being
yes.
visualize the feeling of peace or the feeling of whatever that spiritual feeling is that gives you that sense of harmony with yourself and your soul. Like to me, that is such a big piece of it. Like you have to visualize feeling. And to me, I use God in my visualizations to help remind me to
Wow.
not be tense, to just focus on the feeling
Wow.
of the Spirit, which gives me a lot of the good feelings and just the demeanor of a peak performance type of game.
That's amazing. The fear of God is the beginning of wisdom. And the more that we surrender ourselves to the creator of the world, the more we understand that he surpasses human understanding. And in saying that, we have to be humble enough. We have to be wise enough to say, you know what? God has woken me up today. He's given me opportunity to play the game that I love or pursue my passion, whatever that may be for whoever. And there's nothing I need to do. All I need to do is pray, surrender myself to him, release any type of mental or physical tension in my body, and allow the chips to fall where they may. Because all we can do is all we can do. And a lot of times I think it can be counterproductive when we try to control and force, just flow, just be. I think that that's really powerful that visualization with spirituality, they do go hand in hand because you can see it, you can be it. And like Albert Einstein says, to add with the mind, the imagination is a preview of life's coming attraction. So everything that we see here and everything that we desire, we can acquire. And I think a lot of times we underestimate our power. We are powerful spiritual beings. And it's just really good, man. I wanted to ask you, what would be your advice based on your experiences with basketball as a professional to any athlete listening, to anyone working? Like, what would you say is the best way to overcome themselves?
Yeah, I think there's a lot there. It's man. I struggled with that. I asked myself that question for years. Like, how do I overcome?
Mm,
How do I get by the barrier of me and my mind? Um,
right.
and I think the advice I could give you is like, it stems from just being able to go through your fears and understand, like, if you run through your fears, you're going to end up better off than if you run away from your fears. And that's something that really helped
Man.
where I started to realize all this playing in fear, all of this tension that I'm playing with is
Mhm.
actually, I think it's like a survival instinct. Like I'm trying to
Yes, yes,
literally survive in
yes,
that doesn't require a survival instinct, which
yes,
so interesting how we have instincts rooted in us as humans to survive, and those
yes. Human nature, yes.
they will come out in a high pressure situation like sports. So for me to get out of my own way, and the best advice I could give is you just got to go for it and live with the result. Like you have to,
Amen. You
because
have to.
you're never gonna find out. Would you rather spend your whole life wondering like what if I
Right,
went for it?
right.
Or would you rather go for it and fall on your face? I'd rather go for it
Amen.
and fall on my face. So it took me a
Same
while,
here, brother.
but I think being able to just really just stay locked into that mindset and remind yourself of that every day because it is a daily thing. It's not like you just have it and then you're good for the rest of your life. Like you have to
Right,
for
right.
your whole life.
Mental training, right.
Yeah.
It's crazy too because discipline and regret, right? And perfectionism I think a lot of times as humans, we expect to do everything the right way. Like for most people, well, work this hard to get this job, to do this and do that. And sometimes when the path isn't the way that we thought it was going to be, it can be very discouraging, which leads to anxiety or self-doubt or, but in reality, it's a maze to the top. The worst, your worst enemy on your mission is idle time. But if you stay the course, if you stay patient, if you stay diligent, there's always light at the end of the tunnel. I think that that's powerful. I think the releasing perfectionism, I think sometimes, even for myself personally, like I dealt with some imposter syndrome, just growing up in a certain kind of way and not understanding my own personal inner power. You know, sometimes when you aren't taught certain things, you don't know certain things, you conform to the ways of the world instead of being renewed by your mind and your spirit. You get what I mean? So I just
100%.
think it's about we have the power as unique, special beings to recreate ourselves. We are who we believe we are. We just have to give ourselves the permission to be that.
Right. And that's a daily
Yeah,
battle.
absolutely. Let's see. How are we looking on times?
I think we're good, man. And you tell
Okay.
me. I think we can go
Okay,
for
I
an.
just wanted to make sure because I know sometimes the like on regular Zoom, I don't have the premium. It'll have like a countdown, but it'll probably alert me. I'll just go to another what's another question? In what way can confidence be trained? I know we touched on visualization. I know we touched on um, the power of the mind, but in your experiences, what ways have you either taught other people or have you learned for yourself?
Yeah, I think body language is a tangible thing to train.
Yes.
Something
Yes.
not a lot of people focus on in sports, but to me, confidence is the tangible things, the actual things you can do to get more confident are body language and then what you're saying out loud to yourself and to others. Just talk. The talk and
Okay.
the communication piece to me is so important too, because everyone in the world has negative thoughts. Everyone is going to be
Yes.
doubting themselves
Yes.
in their life. But
Yes.
the best in the world don't let that negative thought turn into 4 or 5 negative thoughts.
Yes.
They know what to do when they have a negative thought, and they can get out of their head by talking to someone, putting someone else up, or saying something out loud to the team, or saying something to themselves. So I
Yeah.
think those, like self-talk and body language, are the two things every confident player. And by the way, I think the key here is like those two things, those matter when you're not playing well. Like when things are not,
Mm.
those are the two things
How
that
do you respond to that adversity?
that's
Absolutely.
confidence to me. And like I can
That's
see
powerful.
based on that. If someone's struggling, I really, really like to just tap into their body language and their talk. Like, has their energy in their voice changed? Because if so, that shows me that you're not confident. That shows me that you're chasing. It shows me that you are not really secure with how you're playing right now, which goes back to the identity piece and the focus on results. But yeah, if you're just like still the same, Steph Curry's my favorite player ever really because of that. It's because he taught me how to not really be controlled by how well you're playing. When he's missing shots, it looks the exact same. So that's the key.
I love that. And I kind of want to like break that down. Like, been studying Tim Grover. For those who don't know, Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan's trainers, he talks about the dark side. He talks about channeling the dark side, right? So sometimes in life, when we go through things or we're having a hard time, like you said, being like, say, if we're not performing the best, sometimes we get so dark in our mind that we don't realize that we can actually use the frustration as fuel to the fire. We can actually use the pain for something beautiful. And that's something that I think is extremely powerful because in life, the dark side is labeled as something bad, but if you can use it for good, it can literally unlock so much within you that you don't even know was possible. Kobe Bryant played with the dark side. Michael Jordan played with the dark side. There's this alter ego or the shadow self that we all have. It's just about being able to understand who you are, the good and the bad. Because we all fall short of the glory of God, and we all have different sides to us. So it's about how do we unpack and use it for our greater good. And what would you say? Have you experienced that with different athletes, or is that something you've learned about?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think, to me, I call it fire. And it's
Mhm.
something that connects to the zone a little bit because that dark side or just the anger and frustration or just that pent up energy we feel playing sports, which is so natural and we all feel it. it's competitiveness. But I think there's a lot of power in that, but it also is like you're on a tightrope because then it could go over the top and now you're using that in the uncontrollable realm rather than
Yes.
using
Control
it.
the grease. Yeah.
If you can leverage that into things that are controllable, like for
Yeah.
example, how much you're talking, your energy, how hard you're playing, the effort you're giving, like to me, that's the formula. And that's why I
Yeah.
call it because fire, to me, is like it's the foil of flow. Fire and flow, when paired
I
together,
like that.
that's to me the optimal state. That is when you are finding that zone or that flow state. But it's different for everyone. For me, I'm someone who's more into flow than fire. But there's some people out there who need more fire than flow. So I think it's about
Yeah.
finding where you're at on that spectrum.
Absolutely. That's really good. What role does joy play in the sport of basketball? What are like how important is that?
That might be the most important thing, man. Honestly, like I think joy is so important. Everyone talks about like being present. You got to be where your feet are. Joy
Right.
is like that is such an easy doorway into the present moment, and it stems from the phrase that everyone has used and everyone's heard it growing up. Time flies when you're having fun. Well, time flies
Yes.
when you're having fun because you're extremely present when you're having fun.
Yeah.
So joy is man, like it's funny because I don't even hoop like that anymore. I play in a men's league now, like I'm washed.
Mhm.
But I played in a men's league, and the first game I played, I was like, we have terrible refs, bro, and it's not bad. So I was like mad the whole game about how bad the refs were. I'm a mental coach, and I struggle with the controllables and stuff like that too, man. Like and
Wow.
everyone's
Right. We're
imperfect.
all human, right? Right.
Yeah, the next game I decided to go in and I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna be as nice as I can to the refs and just find like that joy. And it's crazy how much it affects my mental game. And really that game transitions into the performance as well. I played way better that next game because I was focused on the right things. And I think everyone can
Right.
take that. It's like if you're not playing with joy, you're not in the present. I guarantee you you're drifting
Mm,
in the future a lot.
that's powerful. That's really powerful.
Joy and that gratitude, that is really what being present is. So, to me, it's like it's one of the best ways to get present is playing with joy, having fun, focusing on the gratitude of what you're doing.
Man. Why do you think that today's society has lost the joy? Do you think it's social media? Do you think it's coaching? Do you think basketball has become such a business? Like, what's your thought process on that?
I think, yeah, social media is a big part of it just because comparison is really the root
Mhm.
of that rather than social media. It just creates so much comparison about, everyone lives in the lack when you have social media. It's like, this is what I don't have. This is what I could be. This is who this person has and I don't. Like, instead of living in what we have, we focus on what we don't have. So, I think it's definitely like those toxic things like social media and just like the way society is structured around results and how everyone wants results and how everyone only thinks about outcomes and stats and stuff. But I think really what that is just, people not really focusing on the right things. I think if you focus on
Right.
things and you're going to get cluttered in your mind, you're going to lose that joy for the game. But, I always tell people
Absolutely.
visualize and go back to how you imagine yourself playing when you were like 8, when you were a kid.
Wow.
That's
Wow.
weird. I mean, there's
That's pure freedom.
right.
Wow.
We lose that I think in part due to just like the comparison piece, and then the last piece of that I think is really just like when you grow up, you're grateful to be there, man. And it was a
Mm.
experience to travel the world. And it all started with a kid who didn't even start on his freshman team as a freshman. So
Hmm. Hmm.
it's been a very unique path, and I think that's why I'm here is because I can help athletes who struggle with confidence or who don't believe in themselves and are like, I don't know how I'm going to play college basketball. Well, I feel you.
Right.
I had no idea
Right.
to make it.
Right.
I am. So yeah,
Right.
that's me.
That's amazing. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah,
I've
definitely.
had, yeah, kind of same with me. I've had a crazy journey myself. High school, I was always the hardest worker. I didn't translate on the court. There was this mental block, there was this self-doubt. There was just freezing when I would get in the game, right? But I continue to work. I continue to work. So high school was just a bad experience for me. After that, I was like, you know what? I want to go to college. So one day I'm sitting on the couch and watching a three-point shooting contest or dunk contest. there's a school called Grand Canyon University in Arizona. I'm like, you know what? That and it was a Christian school, and I felt like God was calling me there. And you know what? I want to go there. I want to try to walk on. I want to, went there, tried to walk on for 3 years, didn't make it. I ended up playing club basketball at that school. Played club, played pretty well. And it's crazy because I was actually discovered by an NBA agent. I was in the gym because we were playing like run. We worked out and then we played run. And then he saw me playing. He's like, "Hey, do you play anywhere? Like, do you like no? But I really want to. I want to play D1 so I can make it to the NBA." It's like, "Okay, cool. Do you mind if I, film a video of you? My brother's gonna record, but do you mind if we just put a video together, like put you through a workout?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure, no problem. I'd love to." We do the workout. It goes great. I end up getting the clip and I put that on TikTok. I did a voiceover. I put it out into the world, and it went viral. It went crazy viral. I used that film because I didn't have any film because I wanted to play so bad, and I sent this to hundreds of coaches throughout the country. That lands me in a school in Alabama called Falcon University, where I was able to get varsity scholarship. I went there. I didn't play. Went through kind of the same mental, mental chaos. From that point on, I said, you know what, this isn't working for me. I need to I need to take some steps back to take steps forward. I still wanted to play, but then I wanted to go the CBO route, which is semi-pro for people who may know. Moved back to Arizona. I was going to play out there, but then the team got canceled. I was like, oh God, like, what do I do? But then I was like, you know what? I'm not going to give up on this. I'm going to stay resourceful, calling around different teams, and I was able to land a team out in California to be able to play. Where my coach, he played in the NBA, coached at USC, worked under Coach Bronny, and it's just and I'm still on my journey to get to that point, but it's like all these signs and all these things, the trials and tribulations, they're really the blessing because it makes you once you get to where you want to be, it makes you appreciate it that much more. And it makes you that much more unstoppable because your grit and your hunger and your work ethic is
I love
is
that, man.
all is everything. So yeah, that's been a little bit of my journey. And I wanted to share that because for any athlete who feels like they have to have a traditional route, and especially with what you said too, you don't have to have a traditional route. You just have to have sheer perseverance. You have to be resourceful and utilize these cell phones to make connections. And once you do that, I mean, hey, you can do anything.
Yeah, that's real, man. Two very unique journeys, and I think it's the common theme of like it doesn't have to be cookie cutter. It doesn't have to
Yes.
this blueprint that you think it is where you get an offer eventually. Like a lot of
Right.
people, it's gonna be a different type of route. You got to reach out. You have to be proactive. You have to want it
Absolutely.
the same way off the court as you do on the court. Like you have
Yes.
to,
Yes.
and that's part of the game, man. It is.
It is. And no just means next opportunity, right? And you have to view obstacles as opportunities. It's just a speed bump. It's not a wall. It's not here to block you or stop you. It's just okay. What's the next thing? Oh, here's another challenge. Okay. What's the next thing? Oh, another challenge. And once you continue to stack wins and you have the philosophy of 1% better every single day, you'll look back and be like, oh my goodness, look how far I've come just because I decided to keep going. And it's not a race. It's all about pace. That's it. It's a
Yeah.
marathon.
Fall in
That's
love.
for any athlete listening. What was that?
Fall in love with the process. A man who loves
Yeah,
walk further than the man who loves destination. I love it.
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. That's powerful, man. Thank you, brother. Like, thank you for your story. Thank you for what you do. You're making an impact in this world. God is using you as a powerful vessel to help so many different people, impacting their souls, their minds, their athletic abilities. Like, thank you for what you do. It means a lot. That's why I wanted to connect with you because I really have a lot of respect for who you are and what you stand for. And I gravitate towards your page. I gravitate towards your page. I'm like, man, this is a really good page. I love his work, man. It's just amazing that you're doing God's work, man. So thank you, brother.
That means a lot, and so are you, man. We're
Thank you, bro.
servants of God, and we're just living life as close as we can to Jesus, and we'll fall short. But I think being able to keep that mindset consistent is what helps us play better on the court and be better people off the court. So it's all
Absolutely. Absolutely.
good, man.
Absolutely, man. Well, it's been a pleasure, man. This has been a great podcast. Um, my name is Christian Whitney, for those who may not know. And with my guy Joey here, but this is special. It's really special. And I hope that this resonates with people to continue to keep going, to never give up, to continue to believe in themselves regardless of the odds or whatever outcome they may want. Like once you, or if you follow, listen to God, you can never lose. Truly, truly believe that.
Hear you, man. Thank you
Thank
so
you, my friend.
Thanks for having me,
Thank
man.
you,
We'll
man. Absolutely, man. Let's have a blessed day. Thank you for your time.